In September 2016, Image Space Incorporated announced a partnership with Studio 397 to enhance and upgrade core features of rFactor 2 in the future. This review takes a look at rFactor 2 in its current state. For further details regarding the future of rFactor 2, be sure to check out my Future of rFactor 2 video. Often disregarded for not being a pageant beauty queen, rFactor 2's take on the racing genre may not make it the easiest to pick up and play racing titles, but if you can look past its unglossy exterior, it may just be one of the most rewarding. But does rFactor 2's approach to the racing genre make it a title that's too easily discredited, or are there certain things that make rFactor 2 one of the most accurate racing simulations created yet? Hello everyone and welcome to Let's Test Drive. Today I'll be showing you rFactor 2. So if it's a title you're contemplating grabbing and want to learn a bit more about, stay tuned. And if you're anyway interested in car or racing titles, be sure to check out my other review and comparison videos. When it comes to simulating driving and racing, there are a lot of titles that claim to do it. Your real driving simulator, your racing simulator, the world's premier racing game are all statements we're familiar with, but when it comes to accurately conveying every intricate nuance of racing, do any of them fully deliver? Developer Image Space Incorporated have taken an interesting and unique route with rFactor 2, a function over form approach, where the core underlying functional features of the game take precedent over any form they attempt to represent. This game isn't about winning any beauty competitions or being a show pony. rFactor 2 is about recreating racing in its rawest form. rFactor 2 was originally released in 2013 by Image Space Incorporated, who have a long history in game development, having developed a number of Formula 1 titles for Electronic Arts using their proprietary software engine, iRacing. Image Space Incorporated went on to develop the acclaimed rFactor title. Their iRacing software engine has gone through several iterations throughout the years and has been licensed for use in numerous popular racing titles including GT Legends, GTR and GTR2, Race 07, Race Room Racing Experience and Rice's Games Stock Car Extreme and Automobilista titles. There are also rumours that developer Slightly Mad Studios may have used core features of the iRacing engine in their hit racing title Project Cars, but I'll let you do the detective work on that. rFactor Pro, a software solution targeted for real-world application, has even been used by F1 teams, LMP teams and NASCAR manufacturers as a research and development tool. With a resume this big, this vast, you would expect iRacing to be doing something right. So what better way to start by complementing how rFactor 2 drives and feels, its tyre, physics and handling model, which all work in unison to collectively bring together, in my opinion, one of the most enjoyable and nuanced handling models I've ever experienced. Now, without thought, I would normally be inclined to say it's the cars that feel so good, but it's the tyres and their dynamic behaviour coupled with the suspension over the limit of tyre adhesion that take this title to another level. It's not a simple on and off switch, but unique and subtle cues through the force feedback. When experiencing understeer, you may feel your steering wheel go light as the front tyres unload, but other times you may feel the tyres skipping, folding and flexing over the tarmac as they attempt to regain grip. There really is no other title that so convincingly makes me feel like I can sense the tyre folding and flexing when being pushed to the limit. With this in mind, I want to tell you what I believe to be one of the standout features of this title, the weather system. To simply state that rFactor 2 has a weather system and leave it at that without going into specifics would be an outright disservice to the title. rFactor 2's weather system feels so alive, so natural, seamlessly and realistically transitioning from dry and wet conditions. It allows certain parts of the track to be cloudy, damp and wet, while other parts of the track sunny and dry. As wet weather conditions begin to bear down on a dry track, corner grip levels can vary. Some corners remain dry, while others begin to feel like a game of Russian roulette as you're uncertain about the level of water entering a corner that was dry the lap before. And it's this feel of dynamic track conditions that make rFactor 2 feel so alive. It's as if the track and world are a living, breathing entity, not just a few lines of code that blanket the entire track surface with rain and reduce its grip. Every corner can be different. The gradual transition from a wet to dry track is even more spectacular. Corners start developing dry lines, tyres start overheating, and you find yourself driving offline in an attempt to cool your tyres down. When you finally decide to take a gamble and switch over to slick tyres because a clear dry line has appeared, driving starts to feel like you're threading a needle. If you don't maintain pinpoint driving accuracy and stay on the dry line through corners, it could all be over in a flash. Taking the handling and weather model into account, I want to now state where I believe rFactor 2 shines and excels, where its strength really lies, and that's under realistic race length conditions and endurance racing. When coupled with rFactor 2's handling model, the dynamic weather system, and day-night transitions, I feel rFactor 2 is untouchable when it comes to simulating real-life race lengths and endurance racing. rFactor 2 allows different drivers from around the world to come together, form a team, drive stints in the same car, undergo driver swaps during the race, communicate over the radio like race engineers and drivers would do in real life, all over huge race lengths, simulating what you would feel and experience if you were driving an actual endurance race. Or maybe you just want to be the pace car. Now, being a review, it's hard to sum up and show what an experience like this would be like, so be sure to check out this Virtual Endurance Championship 24-hour race at Le Mans video, where the driver, his teammate, portray the emotions, the ups, the downs, the tensions of what it's like competing with all the elements I've previously mentioned. To truly experience the best of rFactor 2 like this, you really need to be partaking in online multiplayer racing. Don't expect to pick this title up, log onto a random server and have a great racing experience with other random drivers. Organised league racing where players come together on set dates and times is where the best experience can be had. Be sure to check out the ISI forums for globally available leagues or do a quick Google search. Another standout feature for rFactor 2 is the opponent AI. If you dial in the AI strength just right, there really is a sense that you're driving against real opponents. They will fight hard to overtake amongst themselves, they will fight hard to overtake you, diving down the inside during braking zones, driving around the outside of you around corners. There's definitely no feel of the AI being programmed onto predetermined train tracks. Now, with the good comes the bad, and there are a few areas where rFactor 2 comes up short. rFactor 2 offers a base selection of around 40 vehicles to choose from. These range from the famous Dallara DW12 Indy car, the Marussia MR01 Formula 1 car, Formula Renault 3.5s, NASCARs, go-karts, historic open wheelers, a few GT style cars, and a small selection of street cars including the AC Cobra, a few variations of the C6 Corvette and the Honda NSX. This leads me to what I feel may be one of rFactor 2's most limiting issues, an issue that's most likely holding it back from gaining widespread appeal with the masses, and that's its severe lack of officially licensed content. With its base car and track selection being somewhat small and that content being mostly unlicensed and unbranded, you may find yourself scratching your head questioning what you're looking at. To name a few examples, Formula 1 Sepang circuit is simply labelled Malaysia. The Top Gear test track is labelled as Tiger Moth Aerodrome. Japan's famous Suzuka circuit is labelled as Matsuzaka. And Italy's Monza is labelled as Brianza. The only cars appearing to show a semblance of official licensing are the Formula Renault 3.5 open wheelers. The simple fact is the majority of both cars and tracks are unbranded and unlicensed. And I feel that this stops the full potential of this amazing title from being recognised and marketed on an international level to driving and racing enthusiasts. There are games that have proven to us that you don't need huge car selections to be popular or successful. Think F1, NASCAR and rally titles whose focus is on a small, narrow vehicle selection but nail the feel and sense and authenticity to the point of captivating and luring in players. There are some standout tracks though: Suzuka, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and its Formula 1 variations, Silverstone, Atlanta Motorsports Park and the historic version of the deadly Spa-Francorchamps circuit, which you shouldn't even attempt without taking out life insurance first. This leads me to what I feel may be rFactor 2's most hindering issue, the issue that's most likely holding it back from gaining widespread appeal and acceptance, the issue that most laid-back casual gamers seem to point out and then disregard this title for completely: the graphics. Running on DirectX 9, it's evident that there's just something missing and lacking about its appearance, which I can only attribute as coming down to the lack of rendering options and visual effects available for DirectX 9. Most modern game titles are running on DirectX 11, with DirectX 12 becoming the norm in the not too distant future. Although a lot of players dismiss the graphics, it's somewhat interesting to note that unlike a few popular racing titles, rFactor 2's graphics engine does employ the use of multiple light sources, so daytime can transition to night seamlessly, and it's a rewarding experience witnessing trackside lights coming on or a full field of car headlights illuminating the road mid-race. Like any game you first fire up, it's normally the user interface that you experience first, and you would be excused for thinking you're scrolling through the menus of a late 90s PC or console title. When looking onto ISI's website at the car and track selection list, it's a shame they don't implement an equally clean and complementary design. Now, with all that being said, I do want to lead you onto rFactor 2's somewhat saving grace, and that's its modding functionality. Were you uninspired by that user interface and menu screen, or just download a mod to change it? Disliking the unofficial branding of rFactor 2's Indy cars? Download skin packs to convert the cars to the entire 2013 season. Do you want Formula 1 cars? Do you want official Formula 1 tracks? Well, those are all available too, although somewhat questionably ripped from other gaming titles. When the base track and car content is somewhat small, I do wonder if ISI's intention with rFactor 2 was to limit its core content due to licensing issues, and hope that third-party content developers would somehow shape its future and popularity by filling in what was missing from the base content. Some of the legitimate mods that are available are simply amazing though, with one of my favourite mods being ASR Formula's reproduction of the early 90s F1 cars. These cars feel so violent, so brutal, so pinpoint precise and responsive. I can almost say that the experience of attempting to tame these cars alone are worth getting rFactor 2 for. Now, if you're coming from a more easy to pick up and play racing title, there are a few things you should probably be aware of. rFactor 2 doesn't have a standard career mode, but implements a series where you select a car class and race through a number of designated tracks. Don't expect to see any flashy introduction screens or notifications saying you're qualified to run another race. Also to note is that there are no car upgrades if you're expecting a Forza or Gran Turismo experience. If you're watching this review though, there's a good chance that flashy career modes don't interest you anywhere near as much as a game's core underlying handling physics and simulation features. Another feature of rFactor 2 I want to touch on is the online play model. Now, in order to have access to play rFactor 2 multiplayer, you need to purchase rFactor 2 with either a lifetime or yearly multiplayer subscription. I'm sure there's justification behind this, but as a consumer, I don't like this attempt at leaving core game functions out and separating them into additional purchases. Sometimes I think if the madness will ever stop, and if there will be a time in the video game industry where simple game functions like scrolling through a menu or triggering a character to jump will be locked away as pseudo DLC options. So what are my final thoughts on rFactor 2? Personally, myself, I love this title, but I think it takes a certain type of person to genuinely appreciate and look past some of its shortcomings to see all the magic and complexity that's happening underneath. ISI have clearly gone for a function over form approach, and its myriad of complexity may at first glance make the title appear hard to pick up and get into. If you're not fussed with driving the latest exotic supercars, huge car and track selections, but want to experience the most accurate representation of what a driver would experience in full evolving race conditions with, in my opinion, the best force feedback in the racing genre, do yourself a favor and grab this title. That there was my review of rFactor 2. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this from me in the future, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you all again next time.